Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. Iran has warned its forces have their fingers on a trigger to respond forcefully to any US military operation. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also signaled the country is open to a new nuclear deal after US President Donald Trump warned Iran to make one or next attack will be far worse. Meanwhile, during a Senate hearing, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said the future of Iran after Supreme Leader Khamenei seems uncertain. A twin-propeller aircraft carrying 15 people, including a Colombian lawmaker, crashed in a mountainous region near the Venezuelan border, killing all passengers and crew. The plane took off from the Colombian border city of Cucuta and lost contact with air traffic control shortly before it was due to land in nearby Ocana around noon. There were 13 passengers and 2 crew members aboard the flight, which was operated by Colombian state airline Satena. The cause of the crash was not immediately known. Venezuela's armed forces recognized acting President Delcy Rodriguez as commander-in-chief and pledged loyalty to the interim leader. This came nearly 25 days after the US captured President Nicolas Maduro in Caracas along with his wife Cilia Flores and transferred them to New York. The different branches of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, Defense Minister, Interior and Justice Minister and National Assembly President took part in the ceremony. The ministers swore to Rodriguez that the security services and armed forces had absolute loyalty to the acting president and handed over the country's baton of command. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado told US Secretary of State Marco Rubio that she wants to return to Venezuela as soon as possible. She also stressed that border security guarantees were needed not only for her but for millions of Venezuelans displaced by years of political turmoil. Speaking to the press, Machado said she hoped to go back once she completed meetings abroad, adding that hundreds of political leaders remain in exile or hiding inside Venezuela. Meanwhile, Machado has cast doubt on the trustworthiness of interim President Delcy Rodriguez, whom Washington is working with following a military intervention. Three new oil tankers have been sighted in Venezuela's Lake Maracaibo. The vessels had arrived earlier and were waiting for their turn to load crude. In a joint statement, Venezuela's oil ministry and state-run PDVSA said the US and Venezuela conducted a joint operation to return Minerva tanker to Venezuelan waters after it had previously left without payment or authorization from Venezuelan authorities. The lake has been a focal point of intense US military activity, with multiple oil tankers sighted, anchored or seized in the vicinity as part of a US-led blockade on Venezuelan oil exports. Latin American leaders convened at a development forum to call for regional solidarity against political polarization and recent US interventions in Venezuela. Brazilian President Lula indirectly slammed the US for causing divisions within the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, while Colombian President Gustavo Petro suggested a tribunal for former Venezuelan President Maduro. Economic Forum participants included leaders from Ecuador, Bolivia, Guatemala and Chile. Two federal immigration agents involved in the fatal Minneapolis shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretty have been placed on leave. This as the incidents of shooting over the last few weeks have sparked widespread protests Amid mounting public anger, US President Donald Trump has hinted at de-escalating tensions. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz visited a memorial for Alex Pretty, a U.S. citizen shot dead by federal agents over the weekend. Amid mounting unrest, he called for accountability and the withdrawal of federal forces from the city. The killing of Pretty, a 37-year-old intensive care nurse, has triggered protests and intensified Trump administration scrutiny of the enforcement surge. The visit came a day after Trump's border Tom Homan met with Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey as the administration moved to review its ICE operation in the city following the deaths of U.S. citizens. Attendees gathered outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Delcy, Texas. They were met with chemical irritants during clashes with law enforcement. Protesters gathered outside the facility. They were demonstrating against increased immigration enforcement activity and campaigning for the release of a 5-year-old boy and his father. The detention of 5-year-old Liam Ramos has revived international attention, with many immigrant advocates criticizing the detention as inhumane. Many state leaders and government officials have defended the arrest. U.S. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said that federal immigration agents must lose their masks and observe other new restrictions as he outlined conditions that his party is seeking to extend government funding beyond a Saturday deadline. Schumer said agents with the Department of Homeland Security must also wear body cameras, observe the same use of force rules as local police, and be subject to tighter rules requiring such search warrants. Democrats say they will not agree to extend DHS funding without new limits on U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar said that fear and intimidation won't make her quit public service. Her remarks come a day after a man sprayed her with liquid during a town hall in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. During a press conference, Omar slammed U.S. President Donald Trump for his rhetoric towards her since she took office. She claimed hostility fueled by Trump has increased death threats against her. Omar accused the man who attacked her for being angry that Trump's deportation order was not yielding enough deportations of Somalis. The man who allegedly targeted Omar has been arrested. At least 3 have been killed and 1 injured as Russian drones struck Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia, destroying homes and causing fires. Russian missiles and drones have also hit other cities across Ukraine in overnight strikes, damaging power supply and raising casualties. The latest attacks come amid ongoing negotiations to end the conflict, with the next talk scheduled for February 1st. The funeral of Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister and Nationalist Congress Party Chief Ajit Pawar will take place today. Pawar and 4 others died in a plane crash in Baramati on Wednesday. His mortal remains will be carried as the funeral procession moves through the city, allowing people to pay their last respects ahead of the funeral at Vidya Pratishthan ground at 11 a.m. IST. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah and other prominent union ministers will be in attendance. The last rites will be performed with full state honours. Maharashtra has declared state holiday and a 3-day mourning. A limited outbreak of the Nipah virus infections in India has led authorities in Asian countries to step up airport health screening to curb the spread of the virus. According to the centre, only 2 confirmed cases of Nipah virus have been reported in the Indian state of West Bengal from December last year till date. However, it added the virus has largely been contained through coordinated efforts of central and state health agencies. After all identified contacts had been quarantined and tested, meanwhile, Singapore is set to reportedly step up surveillance and conduct temperature screening for travellers arriving from South Asia. Nepal's Election Commission has said it is ready to hold elections as planned. This despite concerns over weather conditions in high-altitude Himalayan regions when the vote takes place on March 5th. The upcoming poll follows deadly anti-corruption protests in September last year that toppled the previous government and ousted former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. This prompted an accelerated election schedule and an unusual early year date for voting. Thailand's elephant population is rising and so are deadly human-elephant conflicts. To curb the growing clashes, the Southeast Asian nation is turning to an unconventional solution, deploying a contraceptive vaccine. The vaccines were administered earlier this week to 3 female elephants in Trat province, located in the country's southeast. According to the director of the Wildlife Conservation Office, Eastern Thailand is seeing elephant birth rates climb by roughly 8% each year, far higher than the national average of 3%. The vaccines were administered remotely using dart guns without sedating the animals. Storm Christian battered Portugal and Spain, leaving widespread damage, power outages, and major disruptions to transport. Communities across the Iberian Peninsula are now facing a massive cleanup effort. In Portugal, more than 850,000 residents were left without electricity as fierce winds toppled trees, tore roofs from homes, blocked roads and rail lines. At least 3 people were killed in Leiria, one of the hardest hit districts, which saw road signs being blown away, roofs of homes torn off, trees uprooted and streets littered with debris. After sweeping across Portugal, Storm Christian pushed east into Spain, which is still reeling from the impact of Storm Joseph. Homes in the Sicilian town of Nisemi have been left teetering on the edge of a cliff after a landslide that triggered a storm. Nisemi, a town of about 25,000 people in south-central Sicily, sits on a plateau that authorities say is gradually collapsing towards the plain below. More than 1,500 people have had to be evacuated due to the landslide. Buildings were seen hanging over the edge after large sections of the slope gave way. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni declared a state of emergency for Sicily, Sardinia and Calabria, and 3 southern regions battered by the violent storm last week. Asian markets traded mixed after the US Federal Reserve kept interest rates unchanged. Australia's ASX 200 fell nearly 0.7%, while Japan's Nikkei edged higher and the broader topics slipped. South Korea outperformed, with the Kospi up over 1% and the Kosdaq surging nearly 3%. Hong Kong stocks dipped while mainland China markets posted modest gains. Indonesia remained in focus after a sharp sell-off as MSCI warned of a possible downgrade and Goldman Sachs cut the market to underweight. In the US, the S&P 500 briefly topped 7,000 for the first time before closing slightly lower. Gold prices are hovering near record highs as investors rush into safe assets amid rising geopolitical and economic uncertainty. Spot gold jumped nearly 3%, briefly touching just under $5,600 an ounce. extending a rally that has pushed prices above $5,000 for the first time this week. Analysts point to growing US debt, a weaker dollar, central bank buying, and fears of global trade fragmentation as key drivers. Silver also surged, climbing towards the $120 mark on strong investor demand, supply shortages, and momentum buying. The metal is up more than 60% so far this year. Platinum gained modestly, while palladium slipped. Markets are also reacting to Middle East tensions and the Federal Reserve's decision to keep US interest rates unchanged. Oil prices climbed after US President Donald Trump issued a stark warning to Iran, saying a massive armada is heading toward the country and time is running out to strike a nuclear deal. Brent crude rose more than 1% to close at $68 a barrel. Trump's comments followed confirmation that the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group has arrived in the Middle East. The president warned that any future attack on Iran would be far more severe than last year's strikes on its nuclear facilities. Urging Tehran to return to negotiations, the heightened rhetoric has raised concerns about supply disruptions in the region, pushing oil prices higher as markets react to escalating geopolitical risk. The US dollar remained weak in Asian trading as markets stayed wary of mounting economic and political risks, while selling eased after reassurances from US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that Washington backs a strong dollar policy. Investors remain cautious amid concerns over erratic US policymaking and pressure on Federal Reserve independence. The Federal Reserve struck a calmer tone on inflation and the labor market, reinforcing expectations that interest rates may stay on hold for longer. The euro hovered just below 1.20 after ECB officials flagged concern over its rapid rise, while sterling and the Swiss franc traded near multi-year highs against the dollar. The greenback also slipped against the Australian and New Zealand dollars, with the Aussie hitting a 3-year peak on rate hike bets. Google has agreed to pay $135 million to settle a class action lawsuit filed by smartphone users over unauthorized data collection on Android devices. The settlement covers Android users since 2017 who alleged Google collected cellular data without permission even when apps were closed or location sharing was disabled. Under the agreement, Google will change its data practices and seek user consent before transferring data during phone setup, while also making it easier to stop data sharing. Snap is setting up an independent subsidiary for its augmented reality smart glasses as it seeks investment and steps up competition with Meta in the wearables market. The new unit, called Specs, comes as Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses emerge as an early leader in AI-powered eyewear. Snap said the move will allow minority investment and support global hiring as it prepares for the product's launch. The company has invested over $3 billion in AR glasses development over the past decade. Britain has asked Google to change its search services to give businesses and users more choice and control over AI-driven content. The proposal would allow publishers to opt out of their content being used in Google's AI overviews or training AI models. The move follows the UK competition watchdog granting Google strategic market status, enabling stronger regulatory action. Google dominates over 90% of search queries in Britain, making its AI features a major influence on online content. Manchester City have advanced to the knockout stages of the Champions League with a 2-0 win over Galatasaray at the Etihad Stadium. First half goals from Erling Haaland and Ryan Cherki ensured the win for the home side. They finished 8th overall in the 36th club table. By finishing inside the top 8, City avoid two-legged playoffs in an already congested February schedule. Meanwhile, Galatasaray ended the group phase in 20th place, qualifying for the playoff round of the competition. New Zealand secured a 50-run consolation win over India in the 4th T20 International. New Zealand posted 215 for 7 after being put into bat thanks to a century stand between openers Tim Seifert and Devon Conway. India's chase got off to the worst possible start with Abhishek Sharma out on the first ball, and wickets kept falling as the hosts slipped to 63 for 4. Shivam Dube fought back with a rapid 65 of 23 balls, but India were eventually bowled out for 165. The win was only a consolation for New Zealand, as India have already sealed the 5-match series after winning the first 3 games. The teams now meet in the final match on Saturday, which is the last warm-up before the T20 World Cup for both teams. Australia have appointed all-rounder Sophie Molyneux as captain in all formats, replacing the retiring Alyssa Healy. Alyssa Healy announced earlier this month that she will retire from international cricket after the upcoming multi-format series against India. The 35-year-old will not play in the T20 matches, so 28-year-old Molyneux will lead Australia for the first time in the opening game on 15 February. She will then serve as Healy's deputy during the one-day series and the one-off test in Perth, which will be Healy's final match. That's it on this edition of Speed News. News and updates will continue on the other side of this short break. Keep watching WION The World is One.